What's cracking, guys? Bruce Matson, senior staff writer of Dynasty LeagueFootball.com, and I'm here with a way too early SUPERFLEX rookie mock draft. And these are always controversial when it's this early in the season. We're trying to figure out where these quarterbacks need to go in the draft, how well we should evaluate them. We all have our preferences, and when it's SUPERFLEX, there's a lot of different variables involved. Some people want to pump up all the quarterbacks. Some people want to pump up the skill players and mix them in with the quarterbacks, and other people do different things, but that's what makes SUPERFLEX great. While you're watching this, jot it down in the comments. Who do you want as your 101? Who's your favorite pick? How are you handling these SUPERFLEX drafts when it comes to this rookie draft season? But we're going to dig right in, and we're going to do that right now. All right, with the first pick, the 101 in our first SUPERFLEX rookie draft, we're going to stay away from quarterback for a minute, and we're going to draft our boy Treylon Burks from Arkansas. And really, he has been an enigma this season, been very productive. Size, adjusted speed for days. You're talking about a wide receiver who's 225 to 230 pounds, who runs like a deer, had a 41.15% market share of Arkansas's passing production, had a big game against Alabama, really sealed the deal on his draft capital, and I just think he is overall the best prospect in this class. So let's forward on to the 102, and let's take our first quarterback, and that's Matt Corral from Ole Miss, and he had a spectacular season. He was throwing ropes in almost every game against SEC level competition. There wasn't really a week where he didn't have a highlight reel play where he was dropping her jaws with some tremendous throw. He has rushed for over 500 yards in each of his last two seasons. So he's not the type of guy who's going to burn it up with rushing production. He's not a Lamar Jackson, but he is going to give you a little bit of a rushing floor. But he does also have an accurate arm to go with it. He has 68.3 completion rates, and he can really pump it downfield. He's made some big plays and some big moments. Matt Corral, I think, is my QB1 at this point. Things could change between now and draft day, but from what I've seen all year and what I expect going forward, I think he's going to be my QB1 for the 2022 NFL Draft. Let's roll over to the 103. The next player I'm going to be selecting here is Isaiah Spiller, running back for Texas A&M. He has 2 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and this year he averaged 3.63 yards after contact per attempt. And what I like best from Isaiah Spiller is his improvement from the 2020 season to the 2021 season. I saw him just get a little bit faster. He got a little bit quicker. His movement was a lot better. I liked him better in open space this year. I also liked how the Aggies used him in the passing game. He was catching more passes in the backfield, catching deeper passes downfield, and I like that. I like that out of my running backs, especially a guy who is portrayed as a full-time feature back, especially at the next level. We should see him get some good draft capital, maybe a second rounder, and whoever drafts him is probably going to be pegging to use him as their feature back with a full workload, and that's Isaiah Spiller, and I'm drafting him at the 103. All right, now let's head over to the 104, and I'm going back to the quarterback position. When I look at a lot of other SUPERFLEX mock drafts, I see this guy get slept on a little bit, and I think it's because we're early in the year, early in the draft season, and people are not ready to plant their flag on some of these players. But Sam Howell, quarterback from North Carolina, is a player we need to keep an eye on. He's been productive. He's been very jazzy all the way from his freshman season to now. This year, he lost a lot of key weapons. He lost Diamie Brown, Daz Newsome, Javonte Williams, and this guy named Michael Carter. Lost all those guys to the NFL and had to start from scratch. He actually picked things up in the rushing department this year, rushing for 825 yards. I don't consider him like a Konami code type of quarterback. I don't consider him a quarterback that's just going to run it all the time. I consider him a guy that can get you a little bit of floor from the rushing game, who can take off when needed, but he's going to get it done with his passing attack. He's very accurate, especially throwing it to the deeper sectors of the field. This year, he was putting the team on his back. He was trying to do whatever he could to win, averaging 11.4 average depth of target per pass attempt, really trying to burn that ball downfield to make those big plays happen. And he was also doing more on the ground. And really, I think Sam Howell's an underappreciated quarterback, and I believe his draft stock, especially for rookie drafts, is going to increase going forward. Let's wheel over to the 105, and here I'm going to be drafting Breece Hall, running back from Iowa State, and this dude is a bigger back. He's team thick at 6'1", 220 pounds. Over the last 2 years, he has rushed for 46 touchdowns. This year, he was using the passing game a little bit more, catching 36 balls. He averaged 2.83 yards after contact per attempt. And this guy's been productive throughout his entire collegiate career. He is gangster at the point of contact. He will run through faces, and he can get it done in the passing game. I look for him to have decent draft capital. I look for him to be a key part of his NFL team's rushing attack, and I look for him to be used early in his NFL career. Forward on to the 106 for the next pick. And I'm going to dabble into the wide receiver position, and I'm going to be going with Garrett Wilson. Wide receiver from Ohio State, possibly one of my favorite wide receivers in this draft. Averaged 3 yards per route ran, and he's a very efficient player. He runs good routes, and he's very solid at the catch point. He can high point the ball. He is very aggressive. It doesn't matter if there's guys draped on him. He'll figure out a way to bring that ball home. He had a 141.7 QB rating when targeted, meaning he's a big-time asset. And even with him sharing the field with Chris Olave, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, he owned a 24.16% market share of Ohio State's passing production. Usually, wide receivers from Ohio State have a lower percent market share, and with him being at close to 25%, that's still a good rate for him. That's still a good ownership percentage. I like Garrett Wilson a lot this year. On to the 107 pick, and we're skipping quarterbacks still, because quarterback's kind of a weird position this season. I don't feel like quarterback is up there with some of the previous years. We don't have any of those top tier talents. We don't have a Trevor Lawrence or anything like that. That's why we're going with another running back here, and that's Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. He had the word Heisman circling his name earlier this season. One of the most productive players in college football. Well, one of the most productive running backs for sure, since he was second in rushing with 1,636 rushing yards. Also had 18 rushing touchdowns to go along with that. His vision and patience is what sets him apart from a lot of running backs in college football. Just his approach to the line of scrimmage and his ability to just wait for the hole to open up, allowing those blockers to get hats on hats, and then sometimes playing cat and mouse with the linebackers to create more separation when he hits that hole. It's truly a thing of beauty to watch him run the ball. Because of that, he forced 89 missed tackles this year, led the whole college football spectrum with that, and he has just been a solid runner, an average 4.46 yards after contact per attempt. Not 4.46 yards per carry, but 4.46 yards after contact per attempt. That is a massive number. Now it's time to draft the 108 pick, and we're not going quarterback again. We are going to draft Drake London, wide receiver USC, in the spot because he is one of the top wide receivers in this draft. He might be at a value here. He might be a top 3 asset. These players here, there's some volatility due to how talented these guys are, and it's deeper than expected. But Drake London was going bonkers this year, one of the most productive wide receivers in the country. He was making big plays happen week in and week out before he got hurt. When he got hurt, he had 1,084 yards on the docket with 7 touchdowns. Even with the time missed counts, he still owned a 32.7% market share of USC's passing productions. When he was healthy on the field, during that time, his market share was in the low 40s. So that's how productive, that's how important he was to the team's passing offense. He also averaged 3.52 yards per route ran. And then he also broke out last year with around a 25% market share at age 19. He's age 20 right now, will be age 20 when he hits the NFL, making him a young rookie wide receiver, which is something that we should all be interested in. Now we're going to go to the 109 pick, and we are now going back to the quarterback well. And when we're going back to this quarterback well, we're going to be lighting up some bottle rockets because we're going to be shooting for the moon, shooting for that upside, hoping we land in the stars. And with that being said, we're going to be drafting Malik Willis, quarterback from Liberty. And reason why we're chasing his upside is due to his rushing production. Over the last 2 years, he has rushed for 25 touchdowns, 1,764 yards. This guy can get it done in the ground. This isn't a player comp. This is more like a fantasy football asset comp, but he could really develop into a Jalen Hurts type of player where you just put him in your lineup, you close your eyes, you own him. At the end of the week, you got QB1 production. You don't know how it happened, but it happened. That's what Malik Willis could be, and really, if he goes to the right team, if he gets the opportunity to succeed, he gets the opportunity to develop, we might have something special here. There are also a downside with him because he is a little bit of a developmental prospect. He is a little rough around the edges. He does have to smooth some of that out, but the upside is so grand that it's hard not to go after him in drafts because you're talking about a player who could really turn around your team or give your team a major boost if he hits. Next pick at the 110, we're going with Kenny Pickett, quarterback from Pitt. We're going back-to-back quarterbacks. You can really flip-flop him with Willis if you want, move him up if you want. If you want to value quarterbacks, it's however you want to do it. It would be your draft. But Pickett is going to be drafted in the first round this year. He had a very exceptional year this season, passing for 4,319 yards and 42 touchdowns. This was his first year of going gangbusters, but he does have a good arm. He can move around the pocket. He has a little bit of mobility. Remember in the ACC championship game where he had the fake slide, he had a long run there, showcasing some wheels. Some wheels. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not Mike Vick. He's not going to give you the Konami code. He's not going to give you 80 rushing yards a game. But he's going to give you a little bit of floor, which is something you like. He's going to be able to keep some plays alive at least, and you're going to be able to roll him out a little bit. But, again, Superflex quarterbacks are on a pedestal. You got a guy here that's probably going to be drafted in the first round that's going to get a lot of looks, and that's Kenny Pickett from Pitt. Going on to the 111 pick, our next selection, we're going to be drafting Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama, formerly from Ohio State. Spent 2 seasons there, struggled to get on the field, struggled to get production, but once he transferred to Alabama, it was all systems goes. You should not hold him down for that because once you get this guy at the combine, this guy's going to shoot up even higher on draft boards because he might run a 4.3. If anything, we know he's got wheels because he's averaging 9.9 yards after the catch per reception. Not 9.9 yards per reception, 9.9 yards after the catch per reception. Once he sees open field, this dude is gone. He's only 20 years old. He's still a young prospect, even though he's been in college football for 3 years. So once he starts his NFL career, he'll be 21 years old. Jameson Williams right now, he's not even old enough to drink, but he's one of the top wide receiver prospects in the nation. 30.74% market share of Alabama's passing production. That's with him sharing the field with John Mechie and company. A lot of good young wide receiver prospects on that roster as well. And he was able to take over that offense off the jump and be productive from week 1 to the SEC championship game. That's Jameson Williams. Be on the lookout for him. And now we're on to our last pick of the first round, the 112 spot. And you may be thinking, man, he's got to go quarterback here. He's got to go quarterback here. But I'm going to go with my man, my favorite wide receiver. Even though we're in the bottom of the first round, it's David Bell, wide receiver of Purdue. This guy has been productive throughout his entire career. Broke out as a freshman. While playing with a healthy Rondale Moore, he was still productive. This year at a 31.47% market share of Purdue's passing production. He had some big games at some tight spots against Michigan State, Iowa, and he's one of the most technical wide receivers in this draft class, not only at route running, but also at the catch point. And he's also very physical. And then his balance around the sidelines and after the catch while making guys miss is very underrated as well. I like David Bell a lot. If anything, he may be underrated here. He may end up the most productive wide receiver from this class once the dust settles and we're a few years down the road. I wouldn't be surprised if he becomes a top 5 wide receiver in the NFL. That's it for the first round, but I do have some honorable mentions, and I want to talk about a couple quarterbacks before we head out because this is a super flex mock, and we got to talk about them quarterbacks. Desmond Ridder from Cincinnati just missed the cut. I think for some drafts he might make it, but here he did not. So if we do another one, you might see his name come up. But I feel like we're going to see him experience a rise in value, especially if he does well in the college football playoff. If he does well at the Senior Bowl, we could see him improve his draft stock, which means he'll improve his Dynasty rookie draft stock, especially in these SUPERFLEX drafts going forward. And I think he's an underrated prospect because he does some good things. He can spin the ball downfield, he's accurate, and he's been leading UC to an incredible season this year. The other quarterback I want to talk about is Carson Strong. When I say Carson Strong, we're talking about his arm because that guy can sling it. He may have the best arm talent in the draft. He can push the ball downfield. A lot of people are going to be leery on him because he's a small school prospect, but he's a very good player. He's another player that could end up being drafted in the first round. I have a good feeling that he probably will be, considering how quarterbacks are valued, and I think he's going to be valued a lot higher than he is now because I'm seeing him fall in the second round a lot of SUPERFLEX rookie mock drafts, more like the bottom half of the second round, but I feel like he has a case to be made to have his stock pumped up as well. I really wanted to talk about him today, but it's hard for me to put some of these quarterbacks over guys like Jameson Williams, David Bell, Drake London, Kenneth Walker. There's some good running backs. Again, you got to think about the running back position is a little bit top heavy and wide receivers deeper than what was being advertised. This class was being advertised as not being very good. The thing about this class, it's different. It gives you a lot of variety. We got some variety at wide receiver. You got a little bit of everything. And at running back, you're top heavy. And quarterback, you're getting a lot of variety as well. I like this selection because it's going to give us a lot of different range of outcomes. And I'm fine with that. And I think it's going to be easier for us to navigate the waters if we put our head to the grindstone and study these players. But let me know which players you wanted pumped up in this draft, who you wanted to take early over some guy I took. Or was there a guy that was drafted too high that probably should have been drafted in the second round? Did I go overboard on somebody? Let me know in the comments. But I want to thank you for watching the show, and I'll catch ya next time.